when this started, I would watch the shows and everyone talking about panic buying. And I thought, what a way to live in a bubble. The average American doesn't have $400 for an emergency. And we're talking about panic buying when you got to have the money to buy in a panic. And most people don't.
No question. I mean, look, $400, $100 bouncing checks, right? Now they're wondering, what their overdraft fees are going to be, because they know they've got to hit that rent. They know that they're good. They walk into Walmart or they go in their grocery store and they don't know what the produce that they want to give their kids to feed them healthily is going to cost. And so it's scary. Now, hopefully the government now with this $1,200 check and the $500 for kids, hopefully now that that's passed, they'll be able to figure out how to get it into the people's hands quicker. Because I think that's a good thing. It gives people a little bit of a sense of control of their lives, a little bit of empowerment. $1,200 is a lot of money, and it can, may not pay everybody's rent, but it may put food on the table and at least get you until we have a better sense of what's going on.
So Mark, you are always very vocal, calling out things that you think should be. One of the things you've talked about is companies not manufacturing essentials, some of this price gouging we saw early on. What's the curve correction when we get on the other side of this?
When we get on the other side, we're going to have to be very specific about emergency PP&E in particular for healthcare providers, because the idea that we have manufacturers of protective equipment for the first line healthcare responders who are putting their lives on the line, and we don't have any certainty about where their production is going, whether it's going to people here in this country or other countries, it's just craziness. And so we have to have a system in place that says, we need to know where all the production is happening. We need to know who they're being shipped to. We need to be able to know how they're being allocated if there's shortages. And we need to have that information available and transparent, not only to the government, but to the public as well. You're not going to do that during regular times, but in emergency times like this, that lack of transparency is adding to the fear, which is making hospitals and others hoard more where they can't, even if they don't need them, and it's making for shortages where they do need them. And so if companies like 3M had just come out and said, you know what, we know this industry for the N95 respirator mask better than anybody. Let us explain to you what's going on and why there's shortages and how we're allocating what we have. We might not like it, but at least we understand it. But they're effectively ghosting the American people and not saying anything. And that's creating a lot of fear. That's creating hoarding. That's causing the price of masks potentially to go up significantly. That's wrong. And we need to make sure that doesn't happen again.
I was walking down the street in my own neighborhood. Obviously, everything is closed in New York. And I thought, how many of them won't return? I thought about how many were just on the brink of success, where their lines had started and the popularity, and now they may not return. How will small businesses reset?
It's hard to say, but I will say this, Cameron. It's a great question. We're talking about government support. With the law that was just passed, there's something the SBA put out called the Payroll Protection Program. And what it is for small businesses with 500 and fewer employees, and you can go to your bank. You don't even have to go to the Small Business Administration. Go to your bank and tell them, if you're a CEO of a small company, that you want to sign up for this. And what they'll do is they'll pay your payroll for the next effectively 3 months, your average payroll for anybody who makes under $100,000 a year. And the great part is, if you promise not to fire anybody and to keep your payroll where it is or increase the number of people, you don't have to pay it back. So for those companies, you know what? I don't know if it's enough, but I know that the alternative where that money's not there, it would be disastrous. So at least this gives us a chance, because like you said, it's a fine line between success and failure for small companies. Those of us who are entrepreneurs, you've seen it on Shark Tank, just one little thing can make or break you. So at least this buys you a little bit of time so we can at least see what, where and when we come out on the other side.
They say necessity is the mother of invention. You have a lot of entrepreneurs. I've walked around my house lately and thought, that's an idea. Again, coming on the other side, we will see a whole new generation of ideas born from this crisis.
Absolutely. 5 years from now, we're going to look back and say, wow, there's these 10, 15, 20 huge, enormous, successful companies, and say, why don't we think of that?